Just before this episode, here's how you can get more from Never a Truer Word. If you're listening to this podcast on Spotify, you can subscribe to this channel to get early access to the weekly analysis episodes, video episodes so you can see the statements as I analyze them, and exclusive content too. And if you're here on YouTube, then become a member of the channel to get early access to everything and exclusive content not available anywhere else. Hello and welcome to Never a Truer Word, where we look at the words that people choose to use to see if they're telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And this is a new look at a classic true crime case and a chance to learn a new skill if you're new to the channel as well. It's the Chris Watts murder case. Chris pleaded guilty, confessed to killing his wife and his two young daughters. One of the most requested cases for me to look at in 2024, so let's do it. As I said, it's a classic true crime case, and if you like your true crime, this is a new way of looking at it. This is something different. We're going to dial away all the noise and only look at the words that Chris Watts uses when he is being interviewed, saying that his wife has disappeared. He doesn't know where she is, doesn't know where the kids are. He's playing the part of the concerned husband. We know it's all lies. So the challenge is, if we only looked at the words that he spoke, could we have told at the time that he was lying, that he was guilty? So we'll dial away all that noise. We'll forget about the body language. We'll forget about all those creepy vibes that guy gives off. And we will just look at the words he uses. And we'll teach you how to go through it, what to look for. For example, watch where his priorities are. He's playing the part of this husband of a missing woman. Is his priorities in the right place? Watch for where he stumbles or repeats words and is not very clear in what he's saying. That can give away a lot. We're also going to look at Chris Watts telling the truth. Yes, he does tell the truth, only in very specific situations. And when you realise that and when you know that, you'll be able to watch someone else talking about a disappeared friend, relative, loved one, and you'll be able to know, are they telling the truth or not? And watch for going extra. It's an interview, so Chris Watts is going to be asked questions, and at times he's going to answer the questions and then say a lot more besides. And what that a lot more is very telling. So are you ready? Let's go on to Chris Watts' interview, part one.
What's going on right now around your house?
Right now, you got K9 units, the sheriff's department. Everybody's like they're doing their best right now to figure out like if they can get a scent, see where they went. If they went on foot, they went in a car, or they went somewhere. And right now it's just like they've been on point. They're going through the house trying to get a scent, and hopefully they can pick something up to where it's going to lead to something.
So what have we got there? The very first question that he's asked in this interview, and the first question is, what's going on right now? Great question. What's going on right now? It's a very wide open question, which means Chris is free to answer in any way that he wants. And that means we can learn what it is that he wants to say, what it is that he wants to get across, what's important to him, what's going on in his head. All these things can come across in the answer to a very open question like, what's going on right now? And his answer is, right now, we've got the K9 units, the sheriff's department. Everybody's like, they're doing their best right now to figure out like if they can get a scent, see where they went, see if they went on foot, if they went in a car, they went somewhere. And right now, it's just like, They've been on point. They're going through the house trying to get a scent, and hopefully they can pick something up to where it's going to lead to something. So when he's asked what's going on right now, and the part he's playing is this concerned husband, but what he talks about here is process, not feelings. His mind is on the process. Now, right now, we can only ask a question about that. Why is that? Is it because the process worries him? Is it because he doesn't really want to talk about his feelings? He doesn't want to give out his darkest fears? It could be all those things. But what we do know is that his focus and what he wants to talk about is the process, not the feelings. There could be some other things here that he's talking the truth. He's telling the truth. He's saying what's going on right now. The K9 units are there and they're trying to pick up a scent, because telling the truth is much easier. It's much more comfortable for us to do than telling a lie. So is that why he's gone on to process and not talking about his feelings? But great question. What is going on right now? And he talks about process and feelings. What he doesn't talk about is very interesting as well, because he doesn't talk about What should be the most important thing in this situation if he was genuine? If he genuinely had a wife and kids that disappeared, he would be talking about them in all likelihood. But he doesn't. What's going on right now really is my wife and kids are missing. That's what should be going on right now for him. But he doesn't talk in that answer to the question, what's going on right now? He doesn't talk about Shanann or the kids at all. Now, I set the challenge of, would we know if we could just analyse his words at the time that he was lying? I notice here he talks about them went a lot of times. See where they went. If they went on foot, if they went in a car, they went somewhere. So I don't have absolutes to take from this, but I do know that he knows they went somewhere. Now, in some ways, that's pretty obvious. If he was the husband of a genuinely missing woman, they would have gone somewhere. But he's talking about them went. He's talking about it went. That's not quite the same as if see where they gone or see where they are. Went is a final destination. It's a way and it's a final destination. It's not quite where they are now, because where you are now in that present tense, you can come back for. But went feels a little bit more final to me. And then he talks about his hopes here, but his hopes are really generic. Hopefully they can pick something up to where it's going to lead to something. Wow, big hopes there. His hope is for something. Not hopefully they can pick up a scent they can use that's going to lead to us knowing what happened to them or tracking them down. No, it's hopefully they can pick something up. It's going to lead to something. I spoke about went, by the way, earlier, and he says he wants to know where they went, and hopefully they can pick something up to where it's, and he doesn't finish that thought, he just says to where it's. Interesting that he's thinking about where, he's thinking about a place, and he's not thinking about what. He doesn't think that the police are there to see what's happened, what's gone on. No, they are there to find out where they went. A location seems to be very important to him. Not the whys, not the what happened, but where they are. So one answer in, got a lot to say about that and got a lot of things that make me go, If I was watching this, I'd be going, what's going on in this guy's head? I would not be able to say to you right now, hey, he murdered his wife and kids. What I could say is, I've got questions. I've got questions about his priorities. I've got questions about this finality of the destination that seems to be coming out in his words. And I've got questions about why he doesn't want to know what happened, why it happened, but he wants to know where that destination is. Also, he's very stuttery here. Now, we stutter in real life, but stuttering suggests two things: a lot of stress. And if he was genuinely concerned, he would be under a lot of stress. He is a murderer and he's trying to hide the fact that he's killed his wife and children. So he is also under a lot of stress there. So we know he's under a lot of stress. Also, I think it is that he is choosing his words very carefully, because when you're lying, especially when you're lying in a high pressure situation like he is here, then we choose our words very carefully. We think about our words very carefully. And therefore, I think that is why the stuttering is coming on in here. It's the restarts. Right now, it's you got K9 units. They're doing their best. They want to see where they went. It's like they've been on point to where it's going to lead to something. So he's very stuttery around here, suggesting stress and picking his words carefully. Let's hear question number 2.
What happened? Your wife came home. Tell me what's.
She came home from the airport 2 a.m. and I left around 5:15. She was still here, and like about 12:10 in that afternoon, her friend Nicole showed up at the door. Like, I had texted Shanann a few times that day, called her, say, but she never got back to me. But she wasn't getting back to any of her people as well, and that's what really concerned a lot of people. Is like, if she's not getting back to her, like, if she doesn't get back to me, that's fine. Like, she gets busy during the day, but she didn't get back to her people, which was very concerning. And Nicole called me when she was at the door, and that's when I came home. And then walked in the house, and nothing was vanished. Nothing was here. I mean, she wasn't here. The kids weren't here. Nobody was here.
So once again, we get this really wide open question to him. What happened? Your wife came home. Tell me what's. So this is a great open question, but he interrupts. He doesn't wait for the question to finish, which is a sign that we've got a prepared answer here. He's got a story that he wants to tell, and he's prepared this story very well in his head, so he's ready to tell it. He doesn't need to wait for the question to finish to say what it is that he knows he wants to say. In normal conversations, we wait for the question to finish so that we can answer the question that is asked. Here, he interrupts and gives his story. You'll notice that where he starts the story is quite interesting. So what happened? Your wife came home, and he starts the story at the point where she came home, and he's very precise about it. She came home from the airport 2 a.m. Now, what I would be expecting here a little bit more is what happened. And I would expect that potentially he was going to talk a bit about coming to the house and finding that his wife and kids were not there, because that should be the big thing that's going on in his head. That moment where he came through the door and everyone had just gone. They were not there. But instead, he goes back to the previous night and said she came home from the airport at 2 a.m. So that makes me think when he's asked what happened, that's where the story of whatever has happened starts. At the point where he starts telling the story, which is when she came home from the airport at 2 a.m. Now, he makes a very quick switch from talking about his wife to talking about himself. She came home from the airport at 2 a.m. and I left around 5:15. Is that important to the story? Or is that him starting to storytell? To create alibis, to create fictional versions of events. She came home from the airport at 2 a.m. and then he starts talking about himself, and I left around 5:15 and she was still here. Now, why is it important for him to say she was still here? Well, we know she wasn't there, so this is a lie. And we can tell that it is important to him. We maybe can't tell directly right now that this is a lie, but she was still here. It's as if to say, look, she hadn't gone. She had not gone. In no way was she not here, because I'm going to tell you that she was still here. He calls her Shanann there. I texted Shanann a few times. Now, he has not really called her that in the prior answer. In fact, he didn't refer to her at all in the prior answer. And he doesn't talk about her that way a lot. He talks about her and she, a little bit more distant pronouns from calling his wife by her name. He says, and tells a story, her friend Nicole showed up at the door like I had texted Shanann a few times that day. That's going backwards in time. So the way events would have happened where I texted Shanann a few times that day and then her friend Nicole showed up at the door, but he has to reverse, go backwards in time and jump out of time, which is something that happens a lot in fabricated stories where the person realizes that what they're saying, in this case, Nicole showing up at the door, doesn't quite make sense. Or I have to add some more context before I can do this. So he has to jump back in time to say something to make the rest of the story make sense. So her friend Nicole showed up at the door like I had texted Shanann a few times that day. So a big jump in time. He says, I had texted her a few times that day, called her to say, but she never got back to me. And he doesn't finish that thought. He doesn't tell us what he called her to say. Well, why would that be? Well, look, it's a lie, because he'd killed her by then. So he may have called her phone to make it look innocent, but he had nothing to say. There was nothing that he had to say. And that's why he cannot finish that thought, because if you do not have the authentic language, it's really hard to construct stuff. We prefer to stick to the truth. So really, called her to say and not expanding any more on that is a worry. He then goes on to say, and that's what really concerned a lot of people, is like she's not getting back to her, like she doesn't get back to me, that's fine. That's what really concerned a lot of people. Not him. He doesn't seem to be expressing any concern. A lot of people is other people. It's over there. It's in the distance. So people were trying to get hold of his wife. They couldn't get hold of her and they were concerned, is what he's saying. What he is not doing at this point is joining himself into that concern. We know that's because he wasn't concerned. He wasn't concerned about that anyway, because he knew that she was never going to get back. So therefore, that's why we've got that distance there. He wasn't concerned. a lot of people were concerned. I'm interested in, he refers a couple of times to Shanann not getting back to her people, and her people interest me. I don't know why he's used it. Is her people the way he refers to her friends that have nothing to do with him? Or is her people, was she an employer or a manager or something, and did she have people working for her? I don't know. I'm just very interested in why he uses that phrase, her people. He talks about Shanann not getting back on the calls, and he says, she doesn't get back to me, that's fine. She doesn't get back to me, that's fine. Interesting. Number one, it's slightly controlling language, like, I'm fine with that. I decide what's fine and what's not fine. I decide what's good about the way she behaves and what's bad about the way she behaves. So I'm starting to feel some controlling language in that as well. But she doesn't get back to me, that's fine. No, I didn't worry, because we've all called people or texted people and they haven't replied straight away or picked up the phone straight away. At that first time, you don't worry. So I didn't think anything of it. No, that's fine. No, I didn't worry. I wasn't worried at that point. It's very usual that she does not reply to me. No, he just said, she doesn't get back to me, that's fine. Is that him explaining why after the first call he didn't do anything? He didn't check she was okay. He just called and then tried to call several other times. But he seems to be trying to say he's casual in this, but he's not really casual. It's kind of that formal, I'm fine. He talks about going back to the house and there's some things missing here. So Nicole called me when she was at the door, and that's when I came home and then walked in the house and nothing, just vanished. Nothing was here. I mean, she wasn't here. The kids weren't here. Nobody was here. He doesn't say that he was expecting them to be there. He hasn't set that up properly. I walked into the house expecting to find her really busy and ignoring her phone or dealing with a kid emergency or anything like that. He doesn't say he was expecting Shanann to be there in the house at that time. He doesn't say why he went round to the house either. He doesn't say why he came home. I get from the context of it, Nicole called me to say, I'm trying to get in the house, or I'm trying to get Shanann and she's not answering the door. And he's like, oh, she hasn't called back 3 times. So I'm a bit worried about this, but he doesn't say any of that. He's really not letting us into the thought processes. He's given us an abbreviated version of the story here. You'll notice it's all things that are true, that he can't argue with. They're facts because Nicole's involved, other people are involved. He can't argue with any of this, which actually makes it really easy to say. It's really easy for him to say people were worried. It's really easy to say Nicole called me, and these things are all true. They're never going to be in dispute. But when he does go into just that little bit more detail, we find it quite damning. He says he got home, nothing was here. That's a strange way to talk about your wife and 2 beloved daughters, just calling them nothing. Nothing was here. That's so broad and vague. The nothing was here. It's really not intimate like you would expect someone to be talking about their family at all. Nothing was here. And most damning for me is the fact that he said just vanished. Now he's recalling his thoughts at the time, so he's saying that's fine that she didn't call back. For example, that's his thought at the time. His thought at the time was just vanished. Just vanished. He walked in the house and thought they'd just vanished. He knew they were gone for like forever. It's not they were gone or not they were not there. It's just, I walked in the house, nothing just vanished. Also, who had just vanished? Again, he's not giving any personality at this point to his wife or the children at all. Just vanished. So we're now 2 questions in. I've got lots and lots to worry about, and that just vanished is particularly striking to me because I don't believe if you were got home and you genuinely did not know where your wife and kids were, you wouldn't be saying they've just vanished. You would be saying they weren't there. Here's some more from Chris Watts.
And so, how many times did you try calling her?
I called her 3 times, texted her about 3 times just to say, what's going on? Like because after I called her and texted her once, it's like maybe she was just busy. Like she had just gotten back. Like everybody's probably calling her from her trip. She just got back from Arizona, and I figured she was just busy. But when her friend showed up, that's what it was like. It registered like, all right, this isn't right.
regular people to this channel will be shouting up and down about a word he uses twice there. And so how many times did you try calling her? And he says, I called her 3 times, texted her about 3 times. And it's that word 3. I called her 3 times, texted her about 3 times. And 3 is known in statement analysis as the liar's number. Used a lot of times in lies. When somebody wants to make up a lie about how often they did something, or how many times they saw something, or how many people they saw, even times, 3 comes up so often. I don't know if this is exactly a lie, or I don't know if 3 was what he figured out was a really good cover number. Yeah, how many times should I call her? 3 seems like a good one. How many times should I text her? 3 seems like a good one. I don't know. But again, when that number 3 pops up in a story and we're starting to see it's a slightly suspicious story, it only adds to my suspicions. I called her 3 times and texted her about 3 times. And when he talks about this, he says, just to say, what's going on. So there's a real casualness there. Just to say, what's going on. Just to say, what's going on. Really interesting. He wants to make it all seem so casual, these calls. This is the reason I was calling her. It's just to say, what's going on. What's going on? Now, that's interesting. What's going on? Is that why he was phoning his wife in the morning? What's going on? It could be. It could be there's something that they do. They phone up and he just goes, hey, babe, what's going on? What's going on can be something different when something's happening that you're not really happy with, or you're really not sure about, or something like that. You might go, hey, what's going on? It's an interesting phrase. It's just, but why does he feel the need to tell us why he called her? Because he's not asked about that. It's only how many times did you try calling her, but he feels he has to go that little bit extra just to say, what's going on? I have to tell you why I'm calling, and hey, it's very casual, and also it's a strange way of putting it. Just to say that implies, hey, I was looking to say something. Look, I didn't kill her. I didn't know that she wouldn't answer because I had something to say in my head. But it's not just to have a chat or anything like that. It's just to say, what's going on. And then he says, look, maybe she was busy. That's why she didn't answer back. Now that's interesting. Could be a thought that passes his head, but when someone doesn't answer your call or reply to your text, do you think they're busy? Do you think they're doing something else? Does it really not surprise you because you really don't know what's going on in that person? But hey, I called and texted her once. It's like maybe she was busy. Again, it's not a massively realistic description of how interactions go. Now, what he wants to get across here is that he texted and called once, and yeah, I thought maybe she was busy, very casually, didn't really think that much of it. By the 3rd call and text, I was petrified because it's, she has not returned all those calls or texts, but he doesn't say any of that. He leaves it at the first one. It doesn't ramp up. Again, an interesting thing for me in that this story is not hanging together in lots of ways. He doesn't ramp up the tension. He doesn't say after the 3rd call, I was frantic with worrying at all. He just doesn't ramp it up. He talks about Nicole showing up as well, and he doesn't say why did the friend show up. So when her friend showed up, that's what it was like, registered like this isn't all right. But again, he doesn't say why the friend showed up. The friend was a friend. I don't know, because he never explicitly says in this, look mate, Nicole was really worried, so she went round to the house to see if she could get her, or Nicole was at the house trying to get in and she could not get Shanann. He doesn't say why the friend showed up at all. He also mentions the trip again, her trip. She just got back from Arizona is what he says. And he mentions the trip a lot when it doesn't need to be mentioned. So was this trip a source of irritation to him or something of interest to him? Because he's mentioned it a couple of times when it doesn't need to be mentioned. Her trip, she just got back from Arizona. It seems to be high priority in his head for some reason. Let's just review that entire answer because it's, and so how many times did you try calling her? That's the question. And he says, I called her 3 times, texted her about 3 times. And that's the answer to the question. How many times did you try calling her? 3 times. Texted her about 3 times. That's all right to add in. And then he goes extremely extra Everything that comes after that is extra. It's not been asked for, so it's something that's important for him to get across. So let's just break that down once again. The things that he wants to get across that he hasn't been asked about, but is a story that he wants to tell, is that he had a plan to call her. He knew what he wanted to say, but he was all right with it. He was fine with it. She just got back from a trip. Maybe everyone was calling her. She just got back from Arizona, by the way. Did you know that? I figured she was just busy. So he's showing us this very innocent husband thought process going on. He's not asked, did the friend show up? He's not asked, when did he get worried? He's asked, how many times did you try calling her? But he wants to give us all this extra information. It must be important to him for a reason. Here's another bit of Chris Watts.
Do you think she just took off? Do you think?
I mean, right now I don't even want to just like throw anything out there. Like, I hope that she's somewhere safe right now and with the kids. But I mean, could she just taken off? I don't know. But if somebody has her and they're not safe, like, I want them back now. Like, that's what's in my head. Like, if they're safe right now, they're gonna come back. But if they're not safe right now, that's the not knowing part. Like, if they're not safe, last night I had every light in the house on. I was hoping that I would just ran over by the kids running in the door and just like barrel rushing me, but it didn't happen. And it was just a traumatic night trying to be here.
So another interesting answer. He's asked a question. Do you think she just took off? Do you think? And he interrupts again here. So he wants to close this one off. And he says, I mean, right now, I don't even want to just like throw anything out there. And that to me is a fair answer to the question. Yeah, it's a yes or no question, and he doesn't say yes or no. Do you think she just took off? No, I don't. Do you think she just took off? Yeah, I do. He doesn't say yes or no, so we know it's going to be a bit of an interesting answer, but I think right now I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to just like throw anything out there. I think is a fair answer. And then he goes extra once again. Like, I hope that she's safe somewhere right now and with the kids. But I mean, could she just have taken off? I don't know, but if somebody has her and they're not safe, like, I want them back now. Like that's what's in my head. Like, if they're safe right now, they're going to come back. But if they're not safe right now, that's the not knowing part. Like, if you're not safe, last night I had every light in the house on. I was hoping that I would just be able to get ran over by the kids running in the door, just like barrel rushing me, but it didn't happen. And it was a traumatic night trying to be here. All extra. So what do we have? We have the answer to the question, which is, I don't want to talk about that. Kind of like I say, fair enough. And then it's all this hopes that she's safe, that she's with the kids. And then this, I want them back. That's what's in my head. I want them to be safe. Last night, here's what I did in the house, and here's what didn't happen in the house. All, I think, this pre-prepared story that he wants to tell, because it's very, very extra. I always say that the more time you spend looking at words and reading them and going back over them and reading the whole thing and going back over and doing it again, you will spot more. And as I am recording this episode, I've just spotted something that in the hours that it takes me to put this together, I haven't spotted before, which is when he says, I hope she's somewhere safe right now and with the kids. Well, because we know this full story, she wasn't with the kids. She had been buried separately from where the kids' bodies were. So an indication there that he knows she is not with the kids, or that is in his head. What an answer. But there is an issue there. He's explicitly saying there was an issue in the relationship, because it's not a no. No, I don't think she just took off. He doesn't go, no, she would never go off. So there is an issue there. Psychologically, in his mind, he knows that it was very possible that she just could have taken off, because he doesn't have the authentic, real language to say, no, I really would not be like her. No reason for her just to go off. Also, nothing there to say, well, she could have gone off, but she would have let me know. Even if we'd had an argument, she would have let me know. She wouldn't just vanish with the kids. You know, she would not take the kids away. She would not let me know where the kids are away. He doesn't say any of that. So in all of that, psychologically, and again, it's his authentic experience, he's using authentic language or not using authentic language there. That is a flag that there was an issue, at least for him, in that relationship. We've got more stumbles here. One of them is very interesting. I mean, she could have could she have taken off? And he was going to say vanished there, wasn't he? She could have just taken off. He's going to use the word vanished again, but we don't think of, well, she could have vanished. That means someone else vanishes someone. So again, I think this word vanish was not one he meant to use, and certainly that time when he went to say vanished, he does not say it. Then we've got the multiple stutter like that. That's what's in my head. I last night I had every light in the house on. He's really stressed and choosing his words carefully. Lots of repetition of the word safe. I hope that she's somewhere safe right now. They're not safe like I want them back now. If they're safe right now, they're going to come back. But if they're not safe right now, that's what, like if they're not safe. Lots of repetitions around safe there. And do you understand exactly what he means? This is, again, I think another example of if you don't have the authentic language, if it's not something you have experienced or you're experiencing, then it's much harder to find the words that make coherent sentences and get ideas and concepts across to people. If somebody has her and they're not safe, like, I want them back now, like that's what's in my head. Like, if they're safe right now, they're going to come back. But if they're not safe right now, doesn't make a lot of sense. Does not make a lot of sense. I think I know what he's getting at, but he can't say it. He can't say it straight and he can't say it coherently because it's not authentic. It's not inside him. And then I'm wondering, do we have some leakage here? When he's asked, do you think if she took off, do you think, he says, I mean, right now, I don't even want to just throw things out there. Now, that's one of those phrases which has got a few meanings. So throw things out there, throw ideas out there, throw theories out there, could be exactly what he means by that. But very often, the truth leaks out in our words. What else do we throw out? The trash. People we don't like anymore. We throw those things out. And I did not like the use of that phrase, throw anything out there. And then another one hit me. I was hoping that I would just get ran over by the kids running in the door, just like barrel rushing me. And that word barrel got me because if you know the story, you will know that the children were found in oil tanks, large oil barrels, very large oil barrels, but that's where the children were found. And was that why the word barrel was coming into his head? Is what we're seeing there leakage from Chris Watts? Still to come, we'll look at what Chris Watts sounds like when he tells the truth, and he does tell the truth. Plus, there are many more indicators that this guy is guilty, that this guy has done something to his wife and to his kids. If you're enjoying this, then you may like the episodes that I've done looking at Scott Peterson, another guy who kills family, his wife, and his unborn child in this case. A guy that is great to study, looking at just the words that he uses, the words that he used at the time when, very much like Chris Watts, he was pretending to be a concerned husband, trying to find out what had happened to his wife, through to the words he uses today when he's talking to journalists from inside prison. Nasty guy, lots to learn from Scott Peterson. There's an entire playlist of Scott Peterson episodes, which I will share in the show description. Please, if you're enjoying this, if you're getting something from this, the like button helps this get out to a whole load of other people. Or if you want to share it with people as well, that would be really appreciated as well. But the like button just takes a second to press. Be really, really appreciated. I'm always interested in your comments. You can let me know on this platform if you can, or get in touch on social media. You'll find all the socials linked in the show description as well. And if you want more from Never a Truer Word, more episodes like this, and there are some really good ones planned for the next few weeks, then you can press the subscribe button to make sure that they come directly to you, or the follow button if you're on Spotify. But also, if you become a member of the channel or a subscriber on Spotify, then you get episodes like this before anyone else, and also you get bonus exclusive episodes as well. So if you want more, then that's the way to get it. If you don't, just hit the like button. Like I say, it takes hours to put this together, so a like to thank me for all the hours in putting this together and sitting with Chris Watts would be really appreciated. Let's go on with Chris Watts.
I'm going to ask some kind of tough questions. Your relationship with your kids.
My kids are my life. I mean, those smiles light up my life. And there's last night, when they usually eat dinner, it was just like, I miss them. I miss telling them, hey, you got to eat that or you're not going to get your dessert, you know, and just like you're not going to get your snack after. I miss that. Like I miss them, you know, cuddle up on their couches. They have like a Minnie Mouse couch and a Sophia couch that they cuddle up on and watch, you know, Bubble Guppies or something. And it was just like, you know, it was tearing me apart last night, and I needed that. I needed that last night, and for nobody to be here last night and to go into their rooms and know that I wasn't going to turn the rain machines on. And I know that I wasn't going to turn their monitor on. And know I wasn't going to kiss them to bed tonight. That's why last night was just horrible. I couldn't do it. I want everybody to just come home. Like wherever they're at, come home. That's what I want.
An answer with some really horrible things in it there. So the interviewer says, I'm going to ask you some tough questions, your relationship with the kids. And he stutters straight away. I mean, my kids are my life. Now, when someone stutters in the word I means we're owning what we say. If we say I'm doing something, we're really committed to it because we've put I in there, the most personal word that we can use. And he stutters there. I mean, my kids are my life. I mean, those smiles. Now, that's interesting because he talks about those smiles, a nice thing about his kids. But then did you notice what else he has to say about his kids? It's all about ordering and control. I miss telling, hey, you got to eat that or you're going to not get your dessert, you know. It's just like you're not going to get a snack after. So the smiles, yeah, he may enjoy the smiles of his kids, but it's quite a generic thing to like about your kids. But then what it is discipline. I miss disciplining my kids. I miss telling them, you got to eat this, you're not going to get dessert, you're not going to get your snack. More controlling language from Chris Watts. Let's give him a bit of a benefit of the doubt here. I mean, we can't give him the benefit of the doubt. He's confessed to murdering, but he's very good at talking about the people he knows are dead, his wife and his kids, in the present tense. My kids are my life, is what he says. Very often, when someone knows that someone is dead, they will use the past tense to refer to that person, even if they're pretending that person is still alive. But Chris Watts, very good at sticking in the present tense. I mean, the kids are my life. But then he talks about missing them. I'm missing things around the kids. I miss that, like I miss them, you know. Now, I don't know when this interview was done, but it's very, very recent, and it's a bit early to be talking about missing them. I want that back is maybe more appropriate, but missing is a bit final, or a bit long-term, missing those things. Again, I don't think he's got the real authentic language to talk about how someone would feel if their wife and kids had vanished, and so therefore that's why he's using things like miss, which is a bit more final or a bit more long-term than we would expect at this time in that disappearance. He goes on to talk about them not being there and how hard it was for him last night in the house without them there. But some of the words he uses, not very nice to me. For nobody to be here last night. So again, we've got his wife and his two kids to be boiled down to nobody. And I want everybody to come home. Again, it's not I want them to come home, which would be closer in terms of that, or even naming the names of Shanann and the kids. No, it's just I want everybody to come home. Very big, broad words to describe something that really should be a little bit more intimate for him. He tells us about what he was doing last night. It was tearing me up last night, and I needed that. I needed that last night. He's talking about needing the kids there. I needed that. And for nobody to be there, to go into their rooms and not know that I wasn't going to turn the rain machines on. I wasn't going to turn the rain machines on. I wasn't going to turn their monitor on. I wasn't going to kiss them. It was horrible. I couldn't. I want everybody to come home. I want everybody to come home. That's what I want. Wow. Major concern for himself. His prime concern, stated there, is for himself. It's about what a hard time he is having. It's how he is not coping without his wife and kids there. And he wants them home. All fair things, but there is no concern for their safety expressed there at all. No concern or worried about how they are, what they're doing. What he's getting across to us there is his concern for himself.
She came back Sunday, you said that to you at night.
Yeah, because her flight got delayed from Arizona because of like other storms around the nation. So she's supposed to get home at like 11. She got home at like 1:48. She got in bed about 2.
What was she going for? Like family trip or what?
It was a Thrive direct sales. It was a local event that was down there between a bunch of leaders in the company.
And that day she was back. I mean,
I left work early that morning, like 5:15, 5:30. So like she barely gotten into bed pretty much.
And this might be a tough question, but did you guys get into an argument before she left?
It wasn't like an argument. We had an emotional conversation, but I'll leave it at that. But I just want them back. I just want them to come back. And if they're not safe right now, that's what's tearing me apart. Because if they are safe, they're coming back. But if they're not, this has got to stop. Like, somebody has to come forward.
Okay, so we have the first question. She came like Sunday, you said at 2 p.m, and he says, yeah, because her flight got delayed from Arizona because of like thunderstorms around the nation. She was supposed to get home like 11. She got home at like 1:48. She got to bed about 2. Now, most of this is really truthful and factual, and you can see it's a very different pattern there. That he's much tighter, he's much more together. We've got a picture even that we can put in our heads. Unlike that talk about whether they're safe or not that's there, or when he went round to the house and how many times he called her and what happened when he called her and texted her. It's much more straightforward because this is all factual. And it's very interesting and always useful to try and find someone being truthful about something when you think they might be lying about something else, because you can spot differences in their speech patterns, the words they use, how many words they use. He doesn't go extra here at all, really. He just sticks to the facts. Now, lying is concocting things. It's making things up that never, ever happened. But a lie exists in the real world, and you have to make sure your lie goes with facts that people know them. So it's a fact. It will be recorded somewhere that her flight got delayed. It will be recorded somewhere she was in Arizona, and because it was thunderstorms and that she was supposed to get home at like 11 but she was delayed. It's all factual. It's all the real world. So he can't make stories up about any of this. He can't say she came home at 11 and went straight to bed and I got up in the morning and she was we didn't have an argument or anything like that. No, it's all factual, and he tells his factual stories much simpler and much clearer than he does some of the things that he's making up. It's also easy to talk about facts. Lying's stressful, lying's hard work. Saying true things like this, that is much easy. I do have a question though. Why does he know the exact time that she got in? She got home at like 1:48. Wow, that's very precise. Not just before 2. 10 to 2, around 1:45. None of that at all. She got in at 1:48. I don't know lots about the background of this story. Was this an issue? Was the fact she was away an issue? Or was it a long-term planned thing? Was he planning on doing it at 11 o'clock when she got home and he had to wait till 1:48 to do it? Or did they get into an argument about how late she was? I do not know what happened, but I do know, very interesting, that he knows the exact time to the minute, 1:48, that she got in. And then he says she got to bed about 2. She got to bed about 2. It's not she got to bed about 2. He doesn't really commit to saying she. What she did is not the important thing in this storytelling here, and that's why he just goes, she got to bed about 2. What's important to him is got to bed about 2, because it's a lie, because she didn't get to bed at 2. But that's the thing that he wants to get across. Less interested in her, which is why he kind of whispers that she got to bed around 2. He's asked, what was she going for? He says it was a Thrive direct sales. It was a local event that was down there between a bunch of leaders and in the company. Factual, again. And you'll see how short his answer is. He can't make up a story about this. He probably doesn't want to make up a story about this, which is why he's just giving this short, factual answer. It was a Thrive event. It was a local event that was down there between a bunch of leaders and in the company. It's much more short, factual, really clear compared to some of the other things that he's said. So this is how he tells the truth. This is how Chris Watts in this moment tells the truth. The interviewer then says, and that night, that day, she was back, and he interrupts with his answer. So I think, again, here, we have got that story that is being told, that pre-prepared story that he wants to get across, and he's so eager to get this pre-prepared story out that he will not wait for the question to end. He'll come, boom, straight in with that pre-prepared story halfway through the question being asked. And so he interrupts, and look, the question's about her. So the answer he gives doesn't even really match this. The question is, that night, that day, she was back, and he talks about himself. He says, I left for work early that morning. So he talks about himself. So he's so prepared with this story, he doesn't notice that what he's got to say doesn't match the question that was asked. The question that was asked was about she. He replies with I. He doesn't finish a thought. I left for work early, like 5:15, 5:30, so like she barely let me, and then he changes that. So whatever she barely let him do, we don't know, but he changes it to she barely gotten into bed. I want to know what Shanann barely let him do that night. I think that's leakage. I think that's him letting the true words come out of his mouth, and then he catches it and goes, I can't say that, so I'm going to have to say something else. I spoke before about the fact that her getting into bed was a lie. It was very important for him to say, and that's why he said that with commitment and less on the she. But our words will let us away time and time again. Look how vague the description of her getting into bed was. She barely gotten into bed, pretty much. Barely and pretty much. Barely twice and pretty much. It's a very vague description. What's that? That's flashing to me. Did she get into bed? And then we have the big question. This might be a tough question, but did you guys get in an argument before? And he says it wasn't. It wasn't like an argument. We had that emotional conversation, but I'll leave it at that. Now, if this was an innocent husband, I would allow that as an answer, that I don't really want to get into this. And there's been a couple of things where he's like, I'll leave it at that, or I don't want to get into that when he's asked about theories. And I understand that, and some people might not want to do it. But interesting on just a couple of things, that those are where he flags up, I don't want to talk about that. And that is a bit of a red flag when he says he doesn't want to talk about that. But that answers the question. Have you been in an argument before? It wasn't an argument, but it was an emotional conversation. And then he goes extra again. But it's, I just want them back. I just want them to come back. And if they're not safe right now, that's what's tearing me apart. Because if they are safe, they're coming back. But if they're not, this has to stop. Like, somebody has to come forward. So all of that is extra. That's the things that he wants to say, the things he wants us to believe, the things, the concepts, the ideas that it's important for him to get across. I want them back. I want them to come back. They might not be safe right now. I'm being torn apart by all this, and it's got to stop, and somebody has got to come forward. So again, why is it important for him to make sure that he looks concerned? Probably because he isn't concerned. He downplays what happens as well. You might have noticed that. It wasn't an argument. We had an emotional conversation. So he's very keen for us to know it wasn't an argument. He says, this has got to stop. Like, somebody has got to come forward. Who? Me? You? Somebody again, is one of those very big and broad things, because the situation that he's in, he can't really talk about. He doesn't have specifics. He doesn't have people he's relating to. He knows there is no somebody. He knows there is no someone who has them, or maybe even somewhere where she is staying safe, sheltered away from him and abuse or something like that. It's just somebody has got to come forward. And once again, we've got this concern for himself. I just want them back. I just want them to come back, not that, for their own good or anything like that. It's what he wants. Hey, it's tearing me apart. He's having a hard time here. As he's telling it, his wife has disappeared, and no one is happy to have just disappeared. If she's run away, she will not be happy. She's been abducted, she will not be happy. But hey, it's tearing him apart, and he says this has got to stop. At this point, I noticed it was the second time he'd used the phrase tearing me apart. He said, that's what's tearing me apart. When he spoke about the previous night, he said, it was tearing me apart last night. Quite visceral language, almost violent language about being torn apart. And we saw some more of that. He said that the night was a traumatic night there. So again, dramatic language. And last night was horrible. So he is using, especially with tearing me apart there, some violent language, but it's not peaceful, calm language that he's using at all. Lots of talking of the night. Last night, it was tearing me apart last night, a traumatic night. Is he talking about last night when no one was at home, or is he talking about the night where these murders happened? Last night was horrible as well. I think we've got some more leakage there from Chris Watts. Here's some more from him.
Have you spoken to her family, like her parents?
Yeah, they've been in constant contact, like every hour. I mean, everybody back in North Carolina and the East Coast. I mean, from Maine to Florida.
What is her parents saying to you? Like,
They're just like if they need to get on a flight, just let them know, because I mean they feel helpless right now because they're on the opposite side of the country. I mean, Colorado is, I mean, you can't just drive around and look. I mean, it's just like you wouldn't really know what you're looking for. That's what the cops pretty much told me. That first day I was like, I want to get out and drive around. They said, you wouldn't know what to look for.
So again, we've got some more truthful stuff, and you'll notice that what he's truthful about is things where other people are involved, where the facts can be proven, and it's really easy to talk about the truth as well. So have you spoken to her family? Yeah. So yes, no question. He says yeah. So we can guess he has spoken to the family. They've been in constant contact like every hour. I mean, everybody back in North Carolina and the East Coast, I mean, from Maine to Florida. Very, very truthful. And again, we just see that pattern where it's done in few words and very clear how often they've been in contact, who he's been in contact with, where they come from. Then it's, what is her parents saying to you? And he says, it's just like if they need to get on a flight, just let them know, because I mean they feel helpless right now because they're on the opposite side of the country. I mean, Colorado is, I mean, you can't just drive around and look. I mean, it's just like you wouldn't really know what you're looking for. That's what the cops pretty much told that first day. I was like, I want to get out and drive around, and they said you wouldn't know what to look for. Now again, this, I think, is mostly truthful. It's got a little bit more waffly because he's moved into this, again, trying to tell us that he wants to search for his wife and his kids. It's like, look at me, I do not know they're dead. I think they're alive, and I wanted to drive around and look for them. And I think that's why he's starting to go again, how do I go extra here? How do I get across? Even though the question is, what are the parents saying to me? How do I get across how concerned I am? But it is mostly truthful, I believe. The parents are saying those things. But interestingly, that's what the cops pretty much told me that first day. Don't go out driving because you don't know what you're looking for. Well, pretty much qualifies it. What else did the cops say to you that first day? And why is that a priority in your mind, Chris Watts?
What's police saying to you?
Right now, this is what they're doing right now is with the canines in the sense. I think this is the biggest thing. This is the biggest thing they've done so far, because yesterday the Frederick Police Department did all the searching of the house and tried to gather whatever information they could. And with the detectives, officers, and sergeants, and today it's, I mean, obviously with all the activity that's around, it's there's a lot going on around here, and I really hope that all this can lead to something positive.
What did your neighbors, did they see anything? Did your neighbors see anything?
No, like the police department went door to door asking, like, cameras and everything, just like nothing.
He's asked, what is the police saying to you? And we've got an answer that's what's going on right now. So the canines in the sense, it's the biggest thing they've done so far. He talks about the Federal Police Department and the officers and the sergeants, the detectives, and that's all the activity that's going around right here. I'm hoping at least to something positive. Again, mostly truthful. He's describing things that can't be argued with because it's obvious that is what the police are doing. However, you'll notice he starts padding out his answers. He did it earlier when he talked about where all the relatives are. Was it Maine to Florida and so on? And here, do we need to know it's the Federal Police Department, or do we just need to know it's the police? Do we need to know the rank of the people that were around about doing all the searching, the detectives, the officers and the sergeants? No, we don't. I think he's starting to pad out the answers because it's very comfortable when we're in that truthful part, because there's not going to come another question about arguments or what has happened, the things that cause him real stress. that a question like that is not going to come if he can just pad out his answers by saying things that are not really necessary to say. By padding out his answers, he can remain more comfortable. But did you notice something about this question? He's asked, what is the police saying to you? And he doesn't say once what the police have said to him. Remember I said in the previous answer, and the police pretty much said something to him, and I was like, oh, what are you hiding there that the police have said to you? And when he's asked directly what the police are saying to you, he doesn't answer. He tells us what the police are doing, but he doesn't tell us what the police have said to him. He's holding that back. He's not answering that question. He's talking about process again, like he did in the very first answer, and he talks about what's happening around the house. Now, I don't know what happened. I wasn't there, but I'm guessing that the police weren't, when they think they're looking for a woman and 2 children, they weren't just in his house, trying to find things in his house to see where they were. They were be searching far and wide, but he's really aware of the fact that they are poking around and searching inside his house. Why would that be? Why would that be something that he's really aware of? In fact, why would that be the only thing the police are doing that he's talking about? He's not talking about any wider searches. He hasn't spoken about if they've gone to her work, maybe, to find if there was anything going on there, or a friend's house, or her parents' house, or anything like that. He hasn't spoken about anything like that. It's just very obvious that a priority for him, something that's crucially important to him, is his house and the police work going on there. And then he's asked, what did your neighbours, did they see anything? And I think he says the police finally went door to door. And I want to know that word finally, because it's the first time that he's given some hint that he doesn't think the police are doing a good job. He's murdered his wife. He probably wants to get across lots of gratitude to the police, thinking that if I'm nice to the police, then they're not going to suspect me as being a murderer, because nice old Chris, he couldn't possibly have done this. But that finally, did he want them to go door to door? I don't know. Did he say finally? I wasn't 100% sure, but it sounded like finally to me. Or is he such a criminal mastermind that he knew he'd evaded the doorbell cameras and so on? I don't know. But the word finally really interests me. We've seen a lot of the interview. Here's the last question in the interview now.
If your wife can see this, if she can watch these, what would you like to tell your wife and your kids?
Shanann, Bella, Celeste, if you're out there, just come back. Like, if somebody has her, just please bring her back. I need to see everybody. I need to see everybody again. This house is not complete without anybody here. Please bring her back.
One of the most worrying answers there. If your wife can see this, if she can watch this, what would you like to tell your wife? So the question is, what would you like to tell your wife? It's an invitation to talk directly to your wife. And he starts off by addressing her, Shanann. And then he addresses the kids too, Bella, Celeste. So he's deviated straight away from the conversation that he would have with his wife, and he's brought the kids into it as well. And then, for some reason, instead of addressing just his wife or addressing his wife and kids, he then talks about somebody that has her and asks, please bring them back. Weird old answer. If you're out there, just come back. That suggests that they can come back of their own volition if they want to. But then he talks not to these people who, let's remember, he knows are dead, but to this mythical somebody who could have her, this somebody that could bring them back. Once again, we've got this massive concern with himself. Yeah? No, I hope you're all right. And, I love you. I hope you're safe. I can't wait to see you again. No, it is all about himself. I need to see everybody. And everybody. Gee, that sort of again, not I need to see you guys. I need to see my wife. I need to see you, Shanann. I need to see you, Bella. I need to see you, Celeste. I need to see everybody again. The house is not complete without anybody there. Again, when he's addressing his wife and his kids are talking about them, these intimate people, his closest family members, he talks about them as everybody and anybody. Please bring them back. And that is the Chris Watts interview. Normally, I do conclusions because we're looking and seeing, is someone lying, is someone telling the truth, or is there a bit more that we can get from the words they say? But we know this guy's lying, right? So we're just going to look at what we picked up there as to the way a liar uses words. The first thing to watch out for is where the story starts. When someone asks what's going on or what happened, look at the point the story starts, because that's likely where the real story starts. Even if when they're talking, it seems quite innocuous. Last night, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. Oh, and today the bad thing happened. Last night is most likely where the story starts in their head, and they cannot help but to start telling their cover story when they're asked what happened. Look for where the concern is, because there he was very concerned with himself. No concern for his wife and children, because there was nothing to be concerned about in his head. They were dead and gone, but his concern was for himself. Why is that? Well, number one, I think he's very selfish. I think that's just how he is, how he would talk. It'd be all about himself, what's important to him and what he wants there. But also, I think he had a lot of psychological concern for himself, because, hey, he'd just done the worst thing he's ever done in his life. Kill his wife, kill his daughter. So he was concerned, am I going to get away with this or not? Am I going to be in jail for the rest of my life? Look for leakage. It's really hard to lie. Your brain knows the truth, and it will let words come out that reflect the truth, which is why I think things like the barrel line and throwing things out there, I believe, are leakage. Quite often, if a word or phrase is used which has got a double meaning or doesn't quite belong in a sentence, that will be an indication of leakage of where the truth is. Look for going extra. We see it so many times there. He's asked a question and he answers the question very quickly, gives an answer to the question, and then goes on to give extra. Why are they giving that extra? Well, in his case, he wanted to show how concerned he was. He wanted to show how optimistic he was that they would come back. He wanted to show what a nice guy he was. I miss my kids. I couldn't possibly have killed them. The extra stuff will be very revealing. It will reveal the stories that the person wants to tell, the priorities that they have, and also look for that missing concern. So not just look for the concern for self, but very often in cases where someone is talking and pretending to be worried about someone that is missing when they know something bad has happened to them, they find it very hard to show concern and worry for that person. And if you think about it, they are the safe person. Yeah, they might feel a bit crap, but they're the safe person. They're the person giving the interviews. The person who's missing, if they were genuinely missing, is going through a hell of a lot worse, but they don't have the language, they don't have the words to express that. So look for missing concern as well. What do you think? Do let me know in the comments if you can, or get in touch on social media. As I've said, all the links are in the notes for this episode. And if you want more from Never a Truer Word, do consider becoming a channel member or a subscriber on Spotify, because you'll get episodes like this before anyone else, and you will also get exclusive bonus content. There's been a lot of it in November as well, exclusive bonus content. And if you want, I'd love it if you could just press that like button, which will help this Chris Watts analysis and a unique and new take on the Chris Watts story get to more people. Just hit the like button, or if you're feeling really generous, share it out on any social media that you are on. Neveratruerword.com is the website. There you can sign up for the monthly newsletter. You could join the Facebook group. You will find a whole load more podcasts or video analysis of the words that people choose to use. It's neveratruerword.com. And we will see you soon for something new from Never a Truer Word.